itself. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.
Ava. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the program. It is nice to have you here with us. It's Friday night. I always love Friday nights, especially in the summer. There's something about it. It just sort of like screams more fun. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. It's a work night for me, but not for you. So let's just start here. Do you love the internet? Because it was on fire today. First of all, the Karen Read murder trial, I thought I would have the Friday verdict for you. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the Friday fun in the interwebs on the Karen murder trial today kind of blew the internet apart. There was a series of photographs and a video, and it did not, how do I put this? It might not have been everything you thought it was. If you saw it, it sure looked inappropriate. Didn't look like the kind of behavior that a lawyer and his client should be having. But we smelled a bit of a rat. And so we went to the top in digital forensics, and we got that guy here tonight. And it turns out he's done a full-on autopsy on the pictures that you probably saw and are wondering about. So do not go anywhere, because you have to have that verdict, even though we don't have a verdict in the actual case itself. And then Matthew Perry. I have been saying all week long that I'm pretty fascinated by what might happen in the fallout from his death. We knew that he drowned in his hot tub. We also knew there was a massive amount of ketamine in his system. What we did not know was that, according to reports, police are actually pretty close to maybe arresting somebody, like the pusher. And then today, reports that there's a famous actress who had a few visits from the law. I'm going to tell you who it was, why she's famous, what other famous people she's been connected to and married to, and what might actually happen in the Matthew Perry case. That's coming up in just a moment. And then if you like to, spend a little bit of time either through the television or through the internet or actually in an actual courtroom, you will notice something very significant about the layout of a courtroom. First thing you notice is the bench, way up there in the front. And it's high up, like it's above all of us, right? It's up high for a reason, because judges are higher than us in like the order of things, right? They're on a pedestal. They're bigger, better, brighter, smarter. They're your honor, right? So I keep wondering, how the hell did this Georgia probate judge get her job? Take a look.
What's your first and last name?
Play with somebody else, Freeman. You can Google me and find me anywhere in America.
I mean, what's your name?
Find somebody else.
So I can Google you.
Call somebody. I told him who to call.
Are you going to give me your other
I told him who to call and to ask him who I was.
Are you going to give me your finger
I told him to call. I said no.
Okay.
Yes, Virginia, that was the back seat of a police cruiser. And those are the two versions of this judge. You're going to see the whole video, because what is on the whole video is, I don't know, Friday night worthy. But I'm going to start here. I'm actually going to start tonight with a big honkin' reminder that sometimes news is what does not happen. And the gotcha moments that end up being like holy Dinah factors actually end up being big old fakes. I'm going to get to the gotcha moment in a moment. But first, the news that maybe wasn't. That Friday verdict that I predicted in the Karen Read murder trial, it did not happen today. I was wrong, just like the Fonz, wrong. But by the end of the day, we got 4 days of deliberations in the tank in Massachusetts at this point. And the only thing that the jury actually agreed upon in those 4 days was a note to the judge, and I will quote it. It says, despite our exhaustive review of the evidence and our diligent consideration of all disputed evidence, we've been unable to reach a unanimous verdict. Wah, wah. So that usually makes all of us quite bewildered. What next? Not judges, though. They get this stuff. They know. They actually expect that it's not unusual. So this judge, after consulting with both sides, said, keep trying. Just go on back in there. Just back at her. Give it another go. For context, 4 days is not nothing, right? But this was a 10-week trial with 74 witnesses and 657 pieces of evidence. And it is a murder trial. So it's a big deal. Karen Read is charged with killing her boyfriend with her SUV outside of a house party. She says it was the police. They set her up. Years ago, a good friend of mine in the business of legal news, Vinnie Politan, came up with a kind of a rule of thumb that's still much talked about in legal circles today. It's called Politan's theorem. And it allows for 1 day of deliberation for every 1 week of trial testimony. In Karen Read's case, 10 weeks of trial means we should really expect 10 days of deliberations. And again, we've barely had 4. Our Alex Capriello was in the court today. He joins me now live. Okay, so I'm going to get to that scandal-y stuff in just a second because I know everyone's like, you started with scandal. Where's the scandal? But first, the court and the jury. Like, what happened? What was that moment like when they passed this note?
Yeah, we were thinking it was going to be a jury question that was coming in, so we were very surprised right before lunch to hear the words that the jury felt like they were unable to reach a unanimous verdict. It caught us all by surprise. Oh my gosh, could this be a hung jury already? And really, the judge gave both sides a chance to argue about it. Of course, the prosecution says they got to keep going. It was just not enough. The defense says we're satisfied. They did their thing. It's good on us if you want to let them go. And the judge took a minute to think it over and, of course, brought them back in, pushed them to continue through lunch and at least see it through the end of the day. So they made it all the way till right before 4 o'clock when the jury came back and asked for 30 more minutes. So then all of a sudden, we're on the edge of our seats thinking that perhaps they are a lot closer than we think they are. Perhaps they could be a Friday verdict after all. But in the end, 4:15 came around. The judge said that's enough for today. You'll come back on Monday morning beginning at 9 a.m. So in total, just under 21 hours of deliberation, but still no consensus at this point, Ashleigh.
21 hours. And, you know, for all of those hours, there's still a lot of people out on the sidewalk expecting some kind of an answer. Are they petering out now that it's Friday, or are they still as robust out there on the sidewalk?
Still very robust, much to my amazement. At least 100, 200 or so Karen Read supporters wearing their pink shirts, blaring their horns, waving their signs. They're all very much excited to be here, a part of this historic moment in their eyes for this community here in Massachusetts. What was different today, Ashleigh, was this was the first time, at least since closing arguments, that we saw counter-protesters, people who firmly believe that Karen Read is guilty of the charges against her. A bit of a clash right here on the edge of the sidewalk where I'm currently standing. They entered into the buffer zone. They were waving their flags out in the air. The police descending on them quickly, pushing them back into the buffer zone. And then when they were all corralled in one moment, we had a chance to ask them how they were feeling. Here's how they responded.
We're doing this for the O'Keefe family. They've had a terrible lack of support. It's unconscionable. This is not the victim. Karen Read is not.
So again, this is a big moment for both sides, still trying to figure out exactly where this thing lands. Of course, it's not up to the people here outside of the courthouse to figure out the fate of Karen Read. That's up to the jury of 12. They still got a lot ahead of them, at least.
Okay, more about the big thing that broke the internet today, that the photos that went like wildfire, apparently showing some inappropriate behavior between Karen Read and her defense attorney, Alan Jackson. Tell me what on earth happened.
Yeah, this was amazing. Something that we were not expecting this morning. All of a sudden, videos and gossip being circulating all around this area. The authenticity of this video that we're seeing. You could see what looks to be Karen Read with what looks to be her defense attorney touching each other, getting really cozy. And the post that we were seeing on the internet said it was last night. And us reporters obviously trying to dig into it when Karen Read and her attorneys were walking into the courtroom for the first time this morning. We were shouting questions about, what is this video? Can you have any comment on it? Is it true? Is it authentic? I myself was skeptical from the beginning. I think a lot of us reporters were, just because we didn't know the source of it, whether or not it was true and accurate. And it turns out we did some myth busting of your own, at least for the Banfield team, who can dive into it a little bit deeper than I can.
All right, Alex, you're right. We are going to. I've got one of the best in the business, a forensics guy who actually makes his living going into court and doing forensics on videos and photos. That's coming in just a moment. And thank you for that, Alex. You're not off the hook for Monday. You got to be back there Monday, so we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks for this.
We'll see you on Monday.
Okay. So if you're a defense attorney, a hung jury which usually results in a mistrial, that is kind of the next best thing to an acquittal. But if you're a prosecutor or a taxpayer, the last thing you want to have to go through all over again is a trial like this. Here's the good news. Juries that throw up their hands and cry, deadlock, they actually, strangely, often do reach a verdict, eventually. Sometimes it takes a little pushing, and my next guest knows a lot more about that than I do. Dave Ehrenberg is the state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida. So this happens a lot. Like, I'm shocked. If you live in the business that we live in, you do see this a lot. And I'm always astounded, Dave Ehrenberg, when a simple nudge from the judge yields an actual verdict. Why is that?
Because the jury needs to know that they have to come to a conclusion. It's not an easy way out just to say hung jury. And the judge has a lot of respect, a lot of street cred in that courtroom. So when he says, go back in there and just make a decision, it means something. And here, I thought actually, your prediction was good, because no one wants to come back in a holiday week. They don't want to come back over July 4th. They want to be on the beach eating hot dogs. And yet they could not come out to an agreement. And I know why. The reason is that there's really a binary choice here. It's not just finding someone guilty or finding reasonable doubt. If you find her not guilty, that means you buy into the defendant's outlandish conspiracy theory that this was all a big conspiracy to kill this officer, dump him out on the front lawn, and put the blame on Karen Reed. I don't buy it for a minute.
But there was so much reasonable doubt. And I get it. I know what you're saying. I feel the same way, except for all the crazy reasonable doubt that was raised in this trial. So I come back to this, like, I'm trying to, of course, always be a fly on the wall in a jury room. And I also love the fact that every state has its version of a dynamite charge. That's not what happened today. Let's be clear. The judge just said, back you go, give it another go. But there is something very formal. If they come back again, Dave, and they say, we can't do it, Judge, we just can't agree. Tell me about the dynamite option that has different names in every jurisdiction. I think this one is called the Tui Rodriguez charge. In other jurisdictions, it's an Allen charge. But what effectively is it, and how different is it than what the judge did today?
The judge was more informal today in telling the judge to go back, the jury to go back and keep deliberating. When it comes to an Allen charge, as I know it, you have specific language to be used. And there are some appellate courts who will say that unless that language is used, then a future guilty verdict, if the jury goes back and finds them guilty, is capable of being overturned on appeal. You've got to use the magic words to send them back. And according to Massachusetts law, you get 2 bites of the apple. The judge can send you back there twice, and then a third time, it's got to be up to the jury to agree to want to continue deliberating. So there are rules in place. This does not go on indefinitely. And Ashleigh, I agree with you that because of the behavior of law enforcement here, in particular Detective Proctor and his awful text messages, I see there is some reasonable doubt that jurors can latch onto. But the problem is that the defense lawyers said, no, if you think there's reasonable doubt, you have to believe there's this massive conspiracy. And I think that was too much of a burden they took on.
Dave Ehrenberg, we're going to watch. Obviously, they're back at it on Monday. Thanks for being on tonight. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Ashleigh. You too.
Okay, things were quiet in the Karen Reed courtroom, relatively. They were not quiet on the internet. Somebody posted what Apple calls a live photo of what appears to be the defendant, Karen Reed, and her attorney, Alan Jackson, getting very close and personal outside a restaurant in Boston just last night. Eyes were popping, jaws were a-dropping, and people really, this isn't the picture, by the way, this is the house. I want to get that picture up as soon as I can. People lost their collective minds across the true crime cybersphere until people started looking a little closer. And that's when the eagle eyes noticed there was something actually pretty glaring. Some signs that the photos that were just whizzing around the internet faster than Mario Andretti, they were actually telling the real story. I am joined now by Lars Daniel. He is a digital forensics expert who has given expert testimony in both state and federal court. He has taught thousands of attorneys how to understand and present digital evidence, and he literally wrote the book. It is called Digital forensics for legal professionals. If there's anybody who can spot a fake in a photo or a video, it is Lars. So Lars, we had to call you right away and ask you about these cockamamie photos that went all over the internet. I just want to make sure our control room has the right ones, because we were showing the house where the police officer died, Karen Reed's boyfriend. But the photos that went around the internet showed that right there. It showed Alan Jackson kind of snuggling around Karen Reed. And a lot of people believe this stuff. They hit the live button and it brings the photo to life for a second and a half. And you do not believe that this is real. And why is that?
No, I certainly do not believe this is real. I think there's only one photo actually that's a part of this that may be real, and that's the lunch photo. The other photos have some real issues. I'd be happy to show those to you actually, and we can see those together. So I'm going to share screen right now and show you some of that information. So if you're looking at my screen, one thing I want to show you right here, Ashleigh, first is that when we're looking at this photo on this side, you know, if you look around, we can read the parking sign here. We have high resolution in the background. We got high resolution bushes. Well, we've got a very high resolution, a very low resolution face. And there's certainly enough reference photos out there to replace the face from all this footage that's out there on this case for Karen. And honestly, when I'm looking at this, my first impression, we look over here, we see the gentleman wearing a Fitbit over here, it looks like, or a Whoop band. And that on his wrist, we see in this photo right here as well. And this hairline and this hair shape certainly resembles Mr. Jackson more, in my impression, than this interesting looking haircut. And one thing to note, when you're talking about forensics, in particular tool marks related to applications like Photoshop or CapCut and the rest, like we're going to talk about in a moment, this hard line right here is pretty evident of a potential tool mark, an actual tool mark of using a tool within Photoshop. But one interesting thing.
Okay, and I'm just noticing. One sec, before you go on, but like right below your red circle there on Karen Reed's face, she's got what looks like a 1980s tube top, the black tube top. But if you go out to the lunch photo, the top on Karen Reed is higher up towards her neck. It's actually not a tube top. Did you notice that? I just noticed it for the first time. I don't know why I didn't notice it earlier today.
Yeah, I did notice that, and honestly, I did show some interest in that shirt, but there's more items that are more interesting to me, like this. So we have this incredibly skinny leg. We have some other items like that. And when we look at the video in a moment, this arm right here, his arm morphs in shape. It grows larger and smaller, and there's a lot of anomalies, and it has been edited. I know it's been edited. There's no doubt about it. I actually don't even need to see the video to tell you it's been edited. We can listen to just the audio and see the tool marks in that. That's right here, actually. This is called.
You can recognize tool marks in audio, because in the audio, I don't think the audience heard the audio, but it kind of sounds like the din of a restaurant. Like the person who took that video might be inside the restaurant looking out the window at the action. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. But honestly, I don't even know if that's actual audio. I think it may be dubbed in, because you can do that in CapCut, which is the tool that was used here. So let me show you this real quick so we can see. You don't even need the video to prove that it's been edited. What we see here is called a spectrogram. A spectrogram is a visual representation of auditory data. So it allows you to see audio data. And you see these hard lines, these big cuts in between the audio. Those are tool marks. That is a cut of an audio file where you have somebody who's used an editing tool to slice out a section. And if we listen to it, which I'll play in just a moment, you'll actually hear a bing, a system sound, either from a computer or a phone, probably a computer, where it's on the editing while he's making it. So I'm going to play that now if you'd like to.
Yeah.
That nice bing is a system sound. Now, that background noise, CapCut, this tool that we're utilizing here, the same one used to edit this video file, has built-in sounds. I found many sounds that sounded very similar to this. And if we transition to the video, we can see there's some more evidence of that as well. So I've actually taken this video and I've spliced in those still images so we can compare that, because that's another element here as well. So we have the original video, and I'm going to pull it across so you can kind of see it. We see that arm. See the arm shaping differently? I'm going to zoom in. So if you watch that arm, it changes size. it like morphing inside, bigger and smaller throughout. So that's one issue here. But the other issue is that you cannot have a low resolution video that produces high resolution clips. So there's alleged still shots from this video, not possible. But there's also a real rookie mistake here, and that's the following. If you watch this video all the way through, what comes up? That CapCut sign right there, that's appended to a video when you edit it in the CapCut software. It adds it to the end if you don't delete it. So that's in there on every CapCut file unless you go and selectively delete it after you produce it. So that's just a total rookie mistake.
So, okay, you're amazing, but the rest of us are not. Is there something that we can do out here in the mere mortal universe to be able to recognize? Because I did not see the CapCut end graphic in the versions of this photo that I saw. And I saw a bunch of different versions, right? People texted it to me. Yeah. I saw it online. I saw it in a bunch of files. But I never saw that CapCut. Did you have to have specialized equipment to see that?
No, I pulled this down from the actual, the Twitter post, or excuse me, X post. I pulled it down and was able to, it was right there. So I extracted this from that actual post. But one thing that's even more interesting here, you see how low resolution this is? You can't take a low resolution video and pull a high resolution clip. So that gentleman was claiming that these clips that I've spliced in, I found the exact spots where they would splice in, came from this video. So you see how that transitions so hard? You have that blur to this.
Oh, yeah.
This video has been edited to death. So this actual movement in here, where you see it doing that, that's a CapCut transition. See these right here? These are all CapCut transitions. I could drag one into this video right here, and we can watch one. See a transition like that? That's all built in with this tool. This has been edited significantly. So in my expert opinion, I know this has been edited because we have editing software marks. But even these images right here where we have those, I don't think you can trust these at all because, once again, there are plenty of reference images out there where you could pull her face smiling from the courtroom or other areas. And replacing these faces on here would be very simple to do if you know what you're doing. And there's generative AI tools that would allow to do it. I could do it by hand and it would look absolutely real. But this is kind of amateur looking work because you see how low resolution it is. What you do if you want to make is you take a high resolution something, you edit it up, and then you make it low resolution so you can't see the tool marks. You can't see the details. That is what we have here.
Interesting. Lars Daniel, I'm so glad you do what you do and that you would take the time to be with me on a Friday night to tell everybody watching they've been duped. Thank you so much for this. I'm going to call you back many times.
Thanks for having me.
Lars Daniel, wow, good stuff. I'm so glad because there was a big debate going on all day today. All right, still to come. Will somebody have to answer for the death of Matthew Perry? Police in Los Angeles are tracking down the person or persons who provided the drugs that were found in Perry's system. And tonight, a name you might recognize had the police come a-knocking. So who is this friend of our friend? And what exactly did investigators ask her? Got the details in a moment. As shocking and as sudden as it was, the death last year of Matthew Perry wasn't a mystery. The beloved star died, as you know, in a hot tub at his home in Los Angeles, and investigators originally said it was an accident. But that isn't the end of it. They also found out that Matthew Perry had almost as much ketamine in his system as doctors use for general anesthesia. And now the police want to know, where'd he get it? Who gave it to him? This week, sources hinted, without naming names, that charges could be coming for several people. And there is one famous actress who just might be a little nervous about that news. Because the LAPD has apparently paid a visit to the ex-wife of Charlie Sheen and former friend of Matthew Perry, Brooke Mueller. And they did that little visit more than one time. That's according to the entertainment magazine In Touch Weekly. Mueller has spent more time in the tabloids than on stage or on screen, and not just because of her 3-year marriage to that guy, Charlie Sheen. She herself has had multiple brushes with the law. The magazine reports that police seized her laptop and her phone. She apparently met Perry when they were both in drug rehab, and sources add that she has been cooperative with the police. want to bring in Mark Garagos, legendary trial attorney and co-host of the podcast Reasonable Doubt with Adam Carolla. Okay, Mark Garagos, just because you have your laptop and your phone seized, it doesn't make you necessarily a target, does it?
It does not. And if she's being cooperative, she may have just given it up willingly. I have seen instances of that. And these are very hard cases to make. I mean, the feds recently made one of these on a case, but you'll remember many years ago, Ashleigh, the John Belushi death spurred a prosecution. That was decades ago. But they're very rare, few and far between. And with ketamine, I have my hesitation as to how far they can go.
So that's a good point. Elizabeth Vargas made that point with me as well, that ketamine is not necessarily an illegal drug, but if you are dealing in it illegally, then it changes the whole metric. I'm just wondering if Brooke Mueller should be worried at this point. Like, Garagos, if you were her attorney, what would you be telling her?
It would depend a lot on what the authorities are telling her or what they're looking for. If they're coming in there and they have a grand jury subpoena or they've got a search warrant, that's a cause for concern. If they're coming in there and saying, look, we're investigating this, we know that you knew him and maybe you know somebody who was supplying the ketamine and we want you to please tell us what you know. And if she may have said, I was texting and I have items, or I was emailing and I have information that could be helpful. I mean, there are a myriad of possibilities that could be exculpatory or point towards that she's just a witness. So I wouldn't jump on the bandwagon quite yet. And I didn't hear Elizabeth's take on it, but I would agree with that because, there's a lot of people who talk about now the use of ketamine in a variety of kind of usual situations, right? Therapy, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of therapies that are using ketamine. And it has a lot of credibility in ketamine therapy as well. Okay, so I just want to read Brooke Mueller's attorney's statement. This is Gregory Pedrick. He says, I believe Ms. Mueller's past choices may have put her in a position to provide some incidental anecdotal background to the authorities investigating Mr. Perry's death, period, nothing more, period. So, I mean, I don't want to ask the same question again, which is what advice do you have for Brooke? Because we don't know what Brooke knows and what Brooke doesn't know from the authorities. But what advice would you have for all of Matthew Perry's friends, including and especially any friend of Matthew Perry's who's been who's been doing drugs with him or providing him with drugs?
Well, like I say, the context is everything. I mean, if it's somebody who's getting you drugs and they're doing something, whether they're script shopping or they're doing some other kind of, getting it in ways that are not quite legal, then you've got cause for concern. If it's somebody who may know something or may know about the use or may know about the therapies that you just mentioned, then I wouldn't have as much pause and I would be cooperating. I think her lawyer makes the same, by the way, was basically the same point I was making without knowing you were going to put up that statement, because the past choices, as the lawyer said, and obviously the same connections, whether it's rehab or post-rehab therapy or running across each other in the same, it's a very small community. They're the community that they existed in. Everybody's 2 or 3 degrees of separation.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to call you again because we're still watching to see what happens and if another shoe's going to drop. Mark Garagos, have a good weekend and thank you.
You too. Happy 4th of July, Ashleigh.
Right back at you. Proud to be an American. Okay, coming up. Even judges are entitled to let loose sometimes, especially after a long week that they spend on the bench. But I think we can all agree this ain't right.
Let it go! Let it go! Let it go! Let it go!
That's a cop!
Yeah, that's a cop. You can hear them. That's a cop. That right there is the Honorable Christina Peterson, a Georgia judge, or should I say ex-judge, for reasons that I'm sure are pretty obvious. And if they are not pretty obvious, the full video I'm about to show you should make it plain as day. Do not go anywhere. We are not adjourned. Judges sit on a bench that is higher than the rest of us for a reason. We call them Your Honor, and we obey their rulings for a reason. And that reason is respect for the law, for the courts, for our system of justice in general. And we also assume that judges play by the same rules, both on and off the bench. But then along came Christina Peterson, a probate judge in Metro Atlanta. Last week, Judge Peterson got in a brawl outside the Red Martini restaurant and lounge at 3 o'clock in the morning. And get this, the person that she was brawling with was an off-duty Atlanta police officer. Don't believe me? I have the proof.
No, he just punched me. Everything for no reason. Let him go. Let him go. Let him go.
That's a cop!
And that's on me. No, I didn't. I don't punch.
Ma'am.
Take me where you want to take me.
I can't take you. I don't
take
have any
me.
identification on
And
me.
I don't care. You don't need the identification. You have locked people up, and you have picked up dead bodies when you don't know who bodies it was, but you picked them up.
Ma'am.
Take me where you need to take me.
I'm trying to.
No, take me where you need to take me immediately, expeditiously.
You're preventing
Take
that.
me. I could give a damn. Take me where you want to
So
take me.
how do you want me to take you somewhere
now?
expeditiously?
Now. Take me where you want to take me. Take me where you need to go, sir.
I can't.
Harassment.
I can't.
This is harassment.
You don't want to provide a name.
Run me into.
You can't provide a name.
It's a pod, cell. Take me where you need to take me. I will get a fingerprint, and they can find out who I am.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
Don't play with me.
That's not how it works.
Into the pod.
That's not how it works.
Please. Stop playing with me and harassing me.
That's not how it works.
It will work like that, I promise.
I need a name and date of birth.
No.
All right, then
You
we
should
just.
have known that when you harassed me.
We're gonna sit here then.
Freeman, just don't play with me. Play with your mama.
What's your first and last name?
Play with somebody else, Freeman. You can Google me and find me anywhere in America.
I mean, what's your name?
Find somebody else.
So I can Google you.
Call somebody. I
So
told him who to call.
are you gonna give me your
I
other
told
finger or
him who to
not?
call and to ask him who I was.
Are you gonna give me your finger
I
or
told
not?
him to call. I said no.
Okay,
Because
appreciate it.
that's
But what? I wasn't cuffed. I wasn't when it needed to. Shut the up. You look like a who was trying to eat on me before, and I never let him relax. Shut the up and stop touching me.
Don't.
Yeah, stop touching me. Get the off of me. Stop touching. I got it. I can walk on my own. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I got it. I can walk on my own. Don't touch me.
Now, which one are you staying that's too tight, ma'am? Because it's moving. This one?
This one?
Okay. Actually, I can't get it free up in here. Hold on. How does that feel? I got it. You got small wrists, though.
I know I do. I don't supposed to be in handcuffs.
You said you shouldn't be in
No.
handcuffs? Okay.
But when people. So what's my charges now? You said I was charged with a felony. What's the felony? You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, misdemeanor.
What's that?
This is the
How many charges is it, sir? Because they went from 1 to...
I told you, obstruction and simple battery.
Obstruction, you said felony obstruction?
Yeah.
What is felony obstruction?
It's the same thing I just said. You should obstruct the officer.
Oh, what is felony obstruction? Girl, you know. You judged that kind of stuff. Just days after that highly unjudge-like performance, the Georgia Supreme Court kicked Judge Peterson off the bench. And I know that's probably not a surprise, but here is a surprise. It was not because of the run-in at the Red Martini. As it turns out, a state panel had been investigating no fewer than 30 allegations of judicial misconduct against Judge Peterson dating back to 2021. And that panel found her guilty of 28 of them. The High Court said that Judge Peterson, and I quote, did not demonstrate the decorum and the temperament required of a judge in the probate court of Douglas County. Not to worry, though. She is going to get a refresher course in all of this in Atlanta when she goes before an active judge, someone still on the bench, on those charges of battery against a police officer and felony obstruction of justice. She'll definitely know what it is when she's there. And now we are adjourned on that story. But only for a couple of minutes, because still to come, it is official. You may mark your true crime trial calendar now. The quadruple murder trial of Bryan Kohberger has a date marked in stone in the Idaho courts. I've got that date for you coming up, and also reaction from one of the murder victim's family members. Plus, did a Nashville bar overserve Riley Strain before he staggered into the Nashville night, never to be seen alive again? Police looked into it, and we have their conclusive report, and it's next.
Libre 3 system, you'll know your glucose and where it's headed. No finger sticks needed. Covered by Medicare for more people managing diabetes with insulin. Visit freestylelibre.us/Medicare.
June 2, 2025. That is when Bryan Kohberger's quadruple murder trial is finally due to get underway in Idaho. June 2nd is a Monday, and the trial, which was originally set for last October, could actually last up to 3 months. Judge laid out the timeline yesterday in a hearing with both sides, Kohberger also present in the courtroom for it. At issue, whether the PhD criminology student from Washington State University committed first-degree murder times 4 in the middle of the night, November 13th, 2022. The victims were all students at the University of Idaho: Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. After that hearing, the Gonzalez family released this statement, and I quote, "It was a good day today. We were able to get a trial date, and things appear to be moving forward. We're hopeful the trial stays in Latah County so as not to disrupt the scheduling order. And we are praying for no more delays. We moved a little closer to justice today for Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. Thank you again for all your support and prayers. It means a lot to our family." Something that was not decided yesterday, still a big question, is a defense motion for a venue change. Team Kohberger is convinced it's impossible to get a fair trial in Latah County. But stay tuned, because that issue will be dealt with in the coming weeks. And also quickly, I've got some long-awaited information in the disappearance and death of Riley Strain back in March. Riley was the college student from Missouri, last seen drinking with his frat brothers in Nashville. His body was found 2 weeks later, several miles downstream in the Cumberland River. As part of the investigation, the state officials backtracked his bar crawl on the night of March 8th, trying to figure out whether anybody could be held liable for over-serving him well past the point of drunkenness. And the verdict is now no. The investigators say the last bar that Riley visited did not over-serve him. In fact, Luke's bar kicked him out after one drink, citing their own conduct standards. Still, Riley's blood alcohol level was almost triple the legal limit. Medical examiner ruled his death an accident caused by drowning and intoxication. Still to come, a Florida woman leads police on a wild chase in a stolen vehicle. And in all fairness, that vehicle was pretty easy to follow, because you can't exactly lose an ambulance in traffic. And trust me, this isn't even the craziest thing the suspect has done to be arrested in the last while. We've got the story next. Plenty of perps have longer rap sheets, gorier rap sheets, more shocking rap sheets. But at the tender age of 30, Ariel Marchand-Laquire is making quite a name for herself for sheer originality. Last week, for reasons we may never know, Marchand Laquire allegedly stole an ambulance from a children's hospital in Fort Myers, Florida. Luckily, the ambulance was empty at the time, and the chase that quickly ensued was caught on video by the Lee County Sheriff's Department. Take a look.
This ambulance is all over the road, and it's running red lights. It's going to end up killing somebody. It's purposely, recklessly driving crazy.
Going in and out of the median. He's all over 3 lanes. If we can get someone behind him just to walk.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Now! Get out of the car! Get out of the car now! I'm going! Sarge, I'm going! Crossfire, going hands on! Take contact, watch crossfire! Stop reaching! Stop reaching! Stop reaching! Good job! Let go! Let go! Let him know. Let him know she's detained. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. Got it. Good. Strong. You could have killed somebody, ma'am. No, because he's lost.
Wow. Well, there you go. There's the mugshot. Tonight, Marchand Laquire is facing multiple charges, including, and this isn't a surprise, grand theft of a motor vehicle, resisting an officer, and theft of emergency equipment. But guess what? This is not the first time that Ariel has had some FaceTime with law enforcement. It turns out that this lovely young lady back in 2019 was busted, and I kid you not, for having 43 turtles in a backpack. And I kid you not again, the backpack had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle design on it. And are you ready for another showstopper? And this might be the biggest showstopper yet, like in my entire career. I don't know. She also had a foot-long alligator. But it was in her pants. She had a foot-long alligator in her pants. None of this is made up. The turtles and the alligator, all that stuff. Apparently both violations of Florida fish and game laws, but you knew that already. Okay, I hope you have a really good weekend. And I hope that we fulfilled our Friday night fun to you with that last thing in particular. Thanks for being here. Make sure you stick around, though, because my friend Chris Cuomo, he's coming up next.
Hello, I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you for the company. How about we talk about last night? All right? Here's the headline. The truth is enough. President Biden failed to do what he had to do. Trump was Trump.